corporate colleagues.
No! We said we were going casual with it.
Are you sure?
Yes, I definitely am.
I don't think you are.
I remember informing you yesterday. Did you check?
I checked my inbox, I checked my Google Space, I didn't find any of your messages.
But did you check your...
Ishani, I'm really freaking out about this. We have to film this today.
See? I sent you a message.
See, you didn't send it on our podcast link chain. So if you don't send it on the chain, Alright, we're back.
We are sorry for the little break there. We faced a minor difficulty in the technical department and a major one in humor. Alright, so we are here to bring you Sering's very own podcast, Echoes. So Anisha and I work in the space of inclusion and belonging, where we talk a lot about unequal social experiences and how we can solve that in the workplace. We do that by encouraging learning as well as unlearning age-old habits, biases and tendencies. One thing we hardly talk about is why is it so important to feel like we belong? What are the origins of these unequal experiences? What is the age-old? In this podcast, we talk about just that because it is important for people to understand the context for them to be invested in the concepts of inclusion and belonging. And this is our very first episode.
Yay! So this is not a standard episode. Instead, we sort of want to give you a little sneak peek of what's to come. We want to bounce off a few ideas off of you, talk about a few fun facts about our histories, and see how they hold up in our 21st century lives. So let's begin with the big one. Elements of popular culture that were beloved childhood treasures once, but are now glaringly problematic. I have one in mind. Oompa Loompas. Thoughts?
Ooh, right in the jugular. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was one of my favorites while growing up. But the Willy Wonka recruitment scheme of turning African pygmy people into some sort of imperialistic ornament to decorate Dahl's whimsical narratives, that was a tough one to swallow as an adult.
Whoa, a lot of big words. Let's do that again, but for us common folks. But I totally get the sentiment though.
Yes, sorry, I got a little carried away. But in the original story, Willy Wonka literally comes across African pygmy people and sort of imports them to work in the chocolate factory. It's a super dodgy representation because Willy Wonka's world represents the whimsical and the absurd, right? And historically, African pygmy people were often displayed in museums or zoo as exhibits because they're unnatural or they were novel.
I have never thought of it in that way. To be honest, I've never fully read an Roald Dahl book.
What? You have not read Roald Dahl? That's preposterous, Anisha. Also, in that case, you must not have seen the illustrations. Let me quickly pull that up on my phone. Here, see.
I don't know, Ishani. Roald Dahl books give me a sort of Black Mirror metaverse vibes, and that gives me the creeps. But coming back to your point, I have also heard a lot of people say that the Oompa Loompas are a representation of the happy slave. They're just basically like machines toiling away happily day in and day out to do their master's bidding. It's obviously rooted in the painful past of the slave trade, where a lot of slave owners would romanticize the oppressive reality of what slavery was.
Exactly. And to have all of this used in literature, in one of the most common and most loved children's books throughout generations. Imagine what kind of a dejecting experience it must be for the people who belong to that community. Anisha, I have one more interesting one. Peter Pan.
Yes, Peter Pan and the Native American representation. Another childhood classic tainted by racial stereotypes. You know how popular Peter Pan was? every child in primary school was shipping Peter Pan and Wendy as the it couple. I think Peter Pan normalized a tropey representation of tribal people for me. Even in school plays, children would dress up as some version of the Native American in Peter Pan when they were playing tribal characters.
Yeah.
And they would speak in incomprehensible grunts like they did in Peter Pan. And it was only when I became friends with a person from a tribal community in India did I realize how problematic their representation was in my mind. And a lot of that, the credit for a lot of that goes to Peter Pan, really.
I agree with you, Anisha. I do, really.
Oh, before I forget, did you watch that show that I told you about?
You tell me about too many shows, Anisha. I can't keep up.
It's that Netflix show called The Norseman. It's hilarious. So like in the first episode, this guy rounds up all the old people in the village and you know what? I'll show you. Editor, that's your cue.
Well, it's time for the Attestube. Anyone want to go first? Björn, you're the oldest. Maybe you should take the first jump.
Well, if someone else wants to jump, it's okay for me. It's a matter of honor, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the Attestube is probably the most honorable thing you can do.
See you on the other side.
Yeah, see you.
To Valhalla!
Ah, that was so awkward. It's making me physically cringe. But you can actually see, right, where our present day dismissiveness for older generations comes from. I mean, we don't really ask older people to go and commit genocide, but sometimes we kind of expect them to give up on their lives in a less intense way, I suppose. I mean, it's physically less intense, but mentally it's just as bad, isn't it?
Yes, and it's for a similar reason as well. These Norse tribes wanted to purge their communities of individuals who they felt were no longer able-bodied or were basically a drain on their resources. Aren't these the same sentiments that we hold towards old people today? And yet, my grandmom can climb up and down 2 flights of stairs without breaking a sweat, and I am dead after just 1 flight. That aside, we cannot safely assume any capabilities for any individual in regards to their age.
You know who else assumed people's capabilities based on their age? People from the Middle Ages. They literally burnt women over 40 because they suspected them of being witches.
Oh yes, most cartoons also show witches as old women, right?
Yes.
Isn't the villain in The Little Mermaid also an older woman who tries to steal Ariel's voice away and her youth away and transfer it to herself?
Yes, exactly. The demonization of older people has been a running theme for generations now.
By the way, how was your London trip? Did you go to the National Gallery? Tell me you've seen the ugly Duchess.
I went, Tanisha, but the line was too long. Why are you so obsessed with her?
She's fascinating, Ishani. I mean, just look at her. No one has ever painted a 16th century woman as anything other than an ethereal goddess. She, however, is the closest thing to a meme that an early modern painter could create. Although the joke is not that funny. I mean, the painting is literally a mockery of older women and their vanity. The painter feels that older women have no business playing dress up and trying to recreate their youth. He basically thinks that they're embarrassing themselves if they think that these tricks will help them win over some young suitors. It's kind of like how we treat old people today. We sort of want them to stay in their lane and do old people things like read a book or sit on the park bench. Have you seen the comment sections of older influencers doing their get ready with me routines? It's brutal.
Also, what is it with people dressing up or putting on makeup is always trying to be attractive for others? I mean, can't people just do this for self-satisfaction sometimes? I find this very unfair and biased.
You know how it is. People always think that a woman's life revolves around acceptance or rejection from men.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, just passed down beliefs and traditions, I guess.
That's interesting, Anisha. You know, recently I attended a talk on Manusmriti and what it says about Indian women. For those who are not aware, the Manusmriti is sort of a how to be a good wife and a woman for dummies in ancient India. This talk really opened my eyes, Anisha. How women are treated in our society and how deep into history this kind of behavior actually goes.
Jeez, Ishani. But you know what this reminds me of?
What?
Adarsh Balak. Ishani got a fourth wall moment. I also deserve one. Anyways, where were we? Adarsh Balak. So, Adarsh Balak is a comic strip that is usually included in children's moral science books in elementary school in India. It sort of teaches kids how to be good children.
Oh yes, Adarsh Balak, I remember. But are Balaks really Adarsh? As far as I remember, I wasn't Adarsh at all. In fact, I was this.
Ishani, do you just show this to me to show off your Gen Z lingo prowess? Nice. But no, Ishani, I do acknowledge your frustration over the unrealistic portrayal of childhood in these comic strips. But what do you think of Adarsh Balika?
What do you mean?
I mean, there's Adarsh Balak, but where's Adarsh Balika? I mean, don't Balikas also need this Adarsh education? Or are they simply representing all children through a male child? Can all children relate to and feel passionate about this mass Adarshwadi movement by looking at our male Adarsh Balak?
Alright. That's enough passion. I get your point though. We see males, especially cisgender heterosexual males, as the model for all things in our society. And much of this behavior is the result of social conditioning. And that social conditioning of reading Adarsh Balak in our primary schools.
Right. But my dramatic monologue was a little better. Just saying.
Speaking about childhood favorite comics and their disturbing impact on adult psyche, how about our favorite Asterix and Obelix?
Oh yes, a staple in all school libraries. But the way you prologued it seems ominous.
As it should. So I was reading some of these comics the other day and I could not believe how problematic some of those themes were. It's filled with stereotypes of African physical appearances.
That's so disheartening. A lot of the things that we had attached our childhood memories to are so problematic in hindsight. And you know what annoys me the most?
What?
The fact that these problematic tropes were consumed by us as children and absorbed in our subconscious minds. And today, when we interact with people, when we interact with the world, these tropes show up in our behavior, in our perceptions.
But you know what really struck me in Asterix was the representation of Roman slavery. I mean, slavery was common in ancient Rome, but it was very different from the transatlantic slave trade. But when they put in African characters in place of Roman slavery, think about Asterix had pretty much given in to modern biases. Not very interested in making historical sense, I think. And you know what's ridiculous about this fact? The transatlantic slave trade hadn't even started by then.
It's fascinating how we can delude ourselves into believing things just because of our biases. Wait, how long have we been speaking for?
Whoa, really long? Too long, Anisha.
You know what we should do? We should turn our endless conversations into podcast episodes where we talk about history and its impact on our unequal lived experiences. What do you think?